everyone, David here. So it is that time of the year. Oscars are coming up, and being that I haven't done this in quite a while, I mean, last year I did do a reaction video with my best friend Lucy about how I felt of the actual ceremony. But it's been quite some time since I've done a three-part, or at least in this case, three-part segments on what my picks and predictions are going to be for this year's Academy Awards 2015. I figured I would dress for the part. I got my suit, I got my tie. I look for any excuse to wear my suit because I like wearing suits. I mean, you know, I think I look pretty dashing in them, so I figured I would put this on and go ahead and give you guys my opinions about who is going to win and who I would want them to win in the Academy Awards for this year, which is the description behind my picks. You got my pick, who are the person, actor, actress, or filmmaker that I want for them to win, and then I got the Oscar pick, who I think the Academy is going to go for, being on how they run things. I was originally going to do between 4 to 5 videos, but because I'm short on time in terms of how many weeks we got ahead of the actual ceremony, I figured I would do a 3-part series on the essential categories. I'm not going to tackle, you know, music or cinematography or visual effects as much as I would like to. I'm just going to tackle the main categories, the acting categories, the screenplay, the directing, and of course best picture for both motion picture and animated film. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and pull the list up here on my iPod because I'm using my laptop to give you guys this feed here, so I can't be using my laptop, but here I got the list of nominees. So the first category that we're going to tackle in this video will be Best Writing Original Screenplay. And the nominees are Richard Linklater for Boyhood, Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, oh man, there's so many writers here, Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, Nicolas Giacobone, I know I'm gonna be butchering these names, Alexander Dinelaris, and Armando Bo, he's got the simplest last name, Bo, B-O, Bo, for Birdman, Wes Anderson and Hugo Guinness for The Grand Budapest Hotel, Dan Gilroy for The Nightcrawler, I was going to say The Nightcrawler, and E. Max Fry and Dan Futterman for Foxcatcher. Now, when it comes to this category, in terms of my picks, I'm kind of caught between two, but I kind of favor one more than the other. The pick that I favor the most would have to be the screenwriters. I'm not going to mention them, but the screenwriters for Birdman, because this movie had an awful lot of monologues that really spoke to me. It really made me go, wow, that's exactly how I feel about the industry and filmmaking, about reviews, about relevancy within social media, and nailed it on point. And there's just so many moments in there that I would rewatch over and over because of how well they were written. Now, my second pick, because if that particular film doesn't win, then I'm okay with this one winning, would be Wes Anderson and Hugo Guinness for The Grand Budapest Hotel, because it's quirky, like Wes Anderson tends to do, but it's also very original. It's very much a credence to the name of this category, which is original screenplay, because it's kind of crazy and bonkers, but at the same time pretty subdued to where you practically believe it. And that, in my opinion, is the prime definition of an original screenplay. Now, who do I think is going to win? Based on award-winning history for this past year, I would have to say, I might say Richard Linklater for Boyhood, but the Academy is a huge Wes Anderson fan. Wes Anderson gets a lot of recognition for the Academy for the past few years, especially in the screenplay category, but has never really won anything. And being that he does have the Golden Globe for Best Musical or Comedy from the Golden Globes under his belt, I feel like that might be a bit of an advantage that will give Wes and this other guy, Hugo Guinness, the higher ground to be able to win this year's Oscar for original screenplay. So I feel like the Oscars might go for Wes Anderson for the first time in forever. I just made a Frozen reference. The next category is also best writing, only this time it is for adapted screenplay, meaning any screenplay that's based on something that was previously published, meaning a book or even a short film. In this case, we got one in there as well. And the nominees are Graham Moore for The Imitation Game, Damien Chazelle for Whiplash, Anthony McCartan for The Theory of Everything, sorry, this thing is kind of blinking on me, Jason Hall for American Sniper, and Paul Thomas Anderson for Inherent Vice. Now I'm going to tell you, I'm a little baffled by the fact that P.T. Anderson, who I usually like, is actually amongst the nominees for Adapted Screenplay, because I recently saw Inherent Vice, wasn't a huge fan of it, which is saying quite a bit because P.T. Anderson usually delivers some really great films, or at least likable films. I actually liked The Master to an extent, but this one I'm just like, I don't know what it is about it, but it just didn't grab me at all. So, needless to say, P.T. Anderson for Inherent Vice is not one of my picks, nor will it probably be an Oscar pick. My pick, much like with the original screenplay category, would have to go between two nominees here, and I'm favoring one over the other as well. The one I'm favoring the most would have to be Damien Chazelle for Whiplash, because there's not only an awful lot of great lines of dialogue, but it also manages to take two characters that both have a similar obsession, but be able to characterize them differently to where they're just butting heads and really play it off in a subtle way. And that's one of the things that I liked about Whiplash. Now, the other pick that I just recently watched, so it wouldn't have been anywhere inside my mind if I hadn't watched it just recently, would have to be Graham Moore for The Imitation Game, because within 15 minutes, there's some lines of dialogue in that movie that grabbed me, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. But more to the point, there's some thrilling moments that were written very well that, I mean, nothing's going on. There's no war sequence. There's no bombs. In fact, during the scenes where bombs are going off, they're not even on screen. You just see the wreckage. But even then, it's still edge of your seat tension, knowing that there's secrets that can benefit one side of the war or the other. And I think that Graham Moore captures that very well. And so between the two, I don't know really who to pick. To be quite honest, both films are great. But if I had to pick one, I would probably go with Damien Chazelle for Whiplash, because out of these two movies, Whiplash was the one that I actually watched after making my top 10 video. And if a movie makes me wish I can get a time machine and go back before I did the top 10 video and include that movie in it, then I definitely think that my pick should go for that film. Now, who's going to win the Oscar? I'll actually have to say Graham Moore for The Imitation Game, because, them Academy, they love their period pieces. But I will actually be pretty satisfied with Graham Moore winning for The Imitation Game, being that it's actually one of my other picks. Just as long as it's not one of the other three, especially Inherent Vice. Sorry, PT. And now for the last category that I'm going to talk about in part 1 of this series is going to be Best Animated Feature Film. The nominees are Big Hero 6, The Box Trolls, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, Song of the Sea, and The Lego Movie. Yes, I wish that this was the lineup, but it's not. Okay, now, I managed to blow off the steam that I had when I realized that Lego Movie was not in there, just like everybody else did when the day came that the nominees were announced. So, I'm not gonna go on a rant saying, what the hell's wrong with you, Academy, because we've all done that. I've done that a fair share amount of times now prior to filming this video, so I'm not gonna waste my breath once again. But damn, you done goofed, Academy. You done goofed. So with wishful thinking aside, the real list of nominees are the ones that I already listed, but instead of the Lego Movie, we got How to Train Your Dragon 2 in there in its stead. Now, this is kind of a strange category. I'll have to confess that three of these nominees I have not watched. Two of them I wouldn't be able to even if I wanted, because they're practically foreign films, which are The Tale of the Princess Kaguya and Song of the Sea. I never even heard of these movies prior to at least the Golden Globes, because I believe one of them or two of them were nominated at the Golden Globes. But I didn't know anything about them. I tried doing a little bit of research, and from what I can tell, they have some really distinct art styles that look pretty cool, but never heard of them. So obviously I can't watch them if they're not available on home release yet, or they're not in a theater near me playing, so there's nothing that I can do. The Box Trolls, on the other hand, I have not watched, even though I do have the ability to go out and rent it, because I think it's already out on DVD, Blu-ray, streaming, that kind of thing. But it's just a little too late to do that, obviously, because I'm already doing this video. So the only two films that I can go with that I did manage to watch is How to Train Your Dragon 2 and Big Hero 6. And if you guys watch my reviews, you know that I wasn't actually that huge of a fan of How to Train Your Dragon 2, and I was actually in the minority with that opinion, because everybody loved it. Everybody was like, oh my god, this is one of the best sequels ever. And I thought that the first half of that movie was actually great. I was like, ooh, this might lead up to something great. But then the second half of the movie just became a bit of a routine sequel. So, being that I feel that way about How to Train Your Dragon 2, God, it's a mouthful. My pick will have to go with Big Hero 6, because I did watch this movie and actually enjoyed it a whole lot more than I did with Dragon 2. Who do I think the Oscars are going to go with? Based on the award-winning history that this movie has had this season, I will say How to Train Your Dragon How to Train Your Dragon 2 is probably going to be taking home the gold this year. And with that, I wrap up part 1 of my series of videos for my picks and predictions of the Academy Awards 2015. I can't remember what the number is. It's like 85th, 86th, or yeah, I think it's 80th. I don't know. Doesn't matter. All I know is that I'll be expecting you next week when I give my predictions for the 2 supporting acting categories as well as Best Director. I'll see you guys then.